How are we doing, everyone? Welcome to the Real Talk Network podcast. My name's Omar. I'm joined by Abdul, Sulaiman, Yusuf, and Jamil. And we got a great podcast for you guys today.
So today we're going to be talking about the first round of the NFL draft. We're going to be talking about some picks that we liked in the second and third round, some way too early boom versus bust, and we're going to be ranking the quarterback spots that we like.
All right. Well, let's get started with this first pick in the draft, Trevor Lawrence.
No brainer.
No brainer. I'm sure everyone expected him to go first overall. Just the generational talent.
There was actually a report that I saw that the Jaguars are actually considering their options. They're just like
I don't think there's any merit to that.
I don't know. I just saw it like
I mean, Urban Meyer, we saw a couple months ago. Urban Meyer was like, yeah, we're heading in that direction to draft Trevor Lawrence.
Coach talk, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to say that they're doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
That
It's
does
probably
make
a
sense.
report.
Second overall pick, Zach Wilson. This was not that much of a surprise. Everyone pretty much mocked Zach Wilson to go to the Jets. But I don't know how I like the situation, like these two fits. I don't know if I really like it that much.
I think more and more people are starting to see the stats that Zach Wilson didn't do very good against good teams or better competition. And I think that it has kind of put a kind of damper in the eyes of the public. And definitely for me, I brought that up last time on our podcast.
Yeah. I mean, like you guys said, you guys mentioned that whole how he played with teams that had 10 wins or more.
Mm-hmm.
And how he just didn't perform that well against them. So, but he is still like the solid quarterback that most teams have him, and I'm sure most teams had him going second overall anyway. He did do good for that 1 year. Hopefully he balls out for the Jets. They do deserve a quarterback too, since they've rarely had any good quarterback play.
I also think that the Jets are slowly building around him. I think they're getting him O-line help and stuff. And
Yeah,
think
I
they
like the
have
Elijah
good
Moore
receivers.
pick, and
Oh,
getting
yeah,
him some
I do too.
weapons.
I really like
And
Elijah Moore.
I don't know if I'm mistake. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they drafted an O-lineman. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
drafted
Elijah Vera
two.
Tucker. They got a guard
Didn't they
at
do
14.
two? I thought they drafted two.
I think they did.
They
They
might
might
have
have got
drafted
a
one.
later round guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, very Tucker.
But then also they got Mekhi Becton from last year, who was a steal, who fell. So they're
And
building up that
he-
O-line.
Yeah, he's
I
really
like
good.
it.
And for the third pick in the draft, I think this was the more controversial one,
Mhm.
Trey Lance. So let's see what you guys think about that.
I actually had Trey Lance going to the 49ers.
I
just
had
a
Mac
feeling-
Jones. I thought that it was gonna be Mac Jones because Kyle Shanahan. That's like the quarterback that he's had in his career. He had
Yeah.
Matt Ryan. He had Jimmy Garoppolo, like that in the pocket passer. That
Uh-huh.
and I didn't expect them to like. They traded up so much capital. They gave two first rounders, in 2022 and 2023. They gave two or three third rounders. They swapped picks in the first round this year to move from 12 to 3. They gave up so much draft capital. Like if this isn't the guy, they're gonna get burned badly.
I mean, they must have high hopes for him
Mhm.
to be that
Um,
confident to put that much draft capital into him. They must have really, really high hopes for that he's gonna work out for them, and he is in that perfect system for him to work out.
Mhm.
Any other system, I really don't think he'll work out as good as he will with the 49ers.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan is an extremely good coach. The whole system is just amazing, and it just fits him.
Mhm.
Yeah, the scouting team really liked him. Like I was seeing reports that Kyle Shanahan actually wanted Mac Jones, but the scouting team were like really pushing for Trey Lance, and that's probably what happened. That's why I picked Trey Lance to go to the Niners.
Okay, yeah, one thing I'm gonna add is me and Jamil both had Trey Lance as our most likely to bust out of the quarterbacks. I think we both changed our stance on that because of how he landed in the 49ers and how that team will build him up into a good quarterback, or at least that's what should happen if he is good.
Yeah, I changed my my bus quarterback play person later because I picked Justin Fields, and we'll talk about why I changed that later.
I mean,
All right.
one thing I want to add, sorry, just to add to
No, go
Trey
ahead.
Lance is I want to ask you guys the question. If other teams and other head coaches made this pick, do you think it would be a lot more controversial? Say, like, I know everyone's defending it because it's Kyle Shanahan, but I still think it's kind of wild that they picked Trey Lance over Justin Fields.
No, I mean I agree. If any other team drafted Trey Lance, I'd be like, all right, this guy would bust pretty easy. I mean, the Falcons got Trey Lance. I think he'd bust with them. Because I mean, Matt Ryan was just like that good of a quarterback coming out of college that he did well with them. But Trey Lance is just that raw of a player. If he's not in the right system, I don't think he'll be that good.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to the next pick, I think this one everyone had or saw was going to happen was Kyle Pitts to the Falcons.
Solid pick.
Just
Not even like solid, a great pick actually, because you're giving. It's clear that they're not going to like in full rebuild mode because Matt Ryan is an aging quarterback. They're going around. They're getting him weapons. I mean, he had his tight end. What was his name? Austin something that they had a
Austin
tight
Moore.
end. They had a tight end that was solid in 2019, and he's on the Browns now. And they have Hayden Hurst, and Hayden Hurst is serviceable, I guess. But when you have a prospect like what the freak athlete like Kyle Pitts, like, you have to take him.
I mean, this guy's arguably the best receiver in the class,
Mm-hmm.
just in
Yeah.
He's
general.
arguably the best player in the draft. That's like not a QB, I think.
I mean,
So
he
that makes
is.
sense. Yeah.
Let's be honest, the Falcons aren't going to be winning a Super Bowl next year, and this will secure them the best talent in the draft, or at least one of the best talents according to every scout.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
just think it might bite them in the butt that they passed on Fields or a different quarterback.
No.
Because Matt Ryan is getting old. They
That's
did
very true.
restructure his contract, but I don't know if they're going to be in a position to draft a prolific quarterback like they could in this year.
I mean, they could still extend them, but we'll see what happens with them.
Mm-hmm.
And for our next pick, Jamar Chase to the Cincinnati Bengals. I know Joseph, I think, liked this pick a lot, so let's see what he thinks about that.
Yeah, I predicted that. I just feel that because of there are a lot of concerns around the Bengals' offensive line, but I think they addressed that later in the draft. The tackle depth was pretty strong this draft, and the wide receiver. I think to pass on somebody like Jamar Chase, which it has the connection with Joe Burrow. I just don't think that would be a good idea. You get your quarterback happy, and then everybody's happy.
I honestly thought this was the mistake of the draft, or just the mistake of the first 5 picks, because I think they should have got Pine Sewell. They need protection on the offensive line. A lot of people say you could fix an offensive line later on with free agents and whatnot, but I mean the Bengals never did, and they've been struggling to do so. And Pine Sewell would be that first piece for. I honestly believe he'll outlast Jamar Chase in the NFL, just being uh playmaking wise. Like he'll be a better player later on in the NFL more than Jamar Chase will be. Because I mean, wide receivers have a shorter shelf life than tackles do or guards do, offensive line in general. So I think Penei Sewell would have been just a much better pick for them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Omar. I think, especially after his injury, I think that they should have addressed online early, and should have got like the best available. But it's good like marketing. I guess they're gonna get a lot of attention too
They're
with
just
it.
selling.
And I
They're
think
selling
people are happy.
tickets. That's what
Yeah.
they're doing. I think that this was an okay. Like I mean, I think that they deserve or they need Sewell much more because we saw Joe Burrow have one of the worst injuries like a quarterback. You literally saw his own lineman just collapse on his knee, and I don't know if any of you have seen the scar, but the scar is gnarly. It's literally just runs down his knee. It's huge, and he tore his MCL, PCL, ACL. He tore everything, and he's still expecting to start week 1, or as he says, you need to protect Joe Burrow. I know that they got was it Riley Reef? They got a tackle in the free agency market, but you have to when you have a generational talent like Penei Sewell, you have to draft him. It starts in the trenches. Like
But a lot of people believe Jamar Chase is a generational talent.
Yeah,
uh,
No,
And
but
they don't
Penei
have a
Sewell is a
line right.
generational talent who would help him more, and I think will last longer.
mhm.
Because, like you said, people say that what happened to Joe Burrow was a freak accident, but he also got sacked 32 times,
Yeah.
which was second in the NFL, which is crazy because he also missed out on games too.
hmm
So for him being sacked 32 times for the amount of games that he played, and you're not going to help him with the tackles in the draft, I think that's just a big mistake.
But they did address the offensive line. Like they
Yeah.
drafted 3 linemen this draft, so I do like that. Even after getting Jamar Chase, they did try and fix that,
Yeah,
That's
because
what I
they
was gonna
drafted a
say.
guard in the second round, and then
and then a tackle in the 4th, and then they got a late round guy as a center. I saw.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they did some free agent signings. So I think their offensive line will definitely see improvements, and I think having a guy on the receiving end, because I mean, don't get me wrong, Tyler Boyd is very good.
T. Higgins,
They're
and T. Higgins
T.
too. I mean,
Higgins
they
is
have solid
also very
receivers.
good, but I think those guys are much better off as wide receiver 2 Jamar Chase can be a wide receiver one on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what they wanted.
And for pick number 6, the Dolphins receive Jalen Waddle. I actually like this pick a lot,
I had him going to the Dolphins as well.
of course.
Yeah.
This man
I,
is this man
I'm
knows everything. What did you go
I went,
seven for
yeah, I
seven in
went,
the first
yeah,
top couple of
I went
picks?
7 for 7 until the J.C. Horn pick because that was
Mhm.
surprising.
I just don't think Waddle was my number one guy, and I wouldn't have. Or I mean, he went 2 overall. I love Devonte Smith. I would have picked him over him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see this as a really good fit because you can always use someone with blazing speed, and that's exactly what Jalen Waddle's going to bring to the Dolphins. He's going to come up a lot on NFL Red Zone for those 70-yard touchdowns. So
Yeah, maybe they just wanted the safer pick too. I guess
Mhm.
maybe they just didn't want to
Yeah.
risk it because the
Maybe they
Dolphins
didn't like
want
his
to win now.
size or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or Devontae Smith. I think
Yeah, I
Devontae
don't-
Smith was a better prospect. I
Really?
would have rather. Yeah, I had Jalen Waddle as my number 3. I like Devontae Smith a lot more. And
I agree.
so
I do too.
if I were the Dolphins, I mean, they maybe they're scared because of his side. Maybe they're scared of maybe they needed Jalen Waddle just like his specific attributes to the Miami Dolphins offense. But I think
Yeah.
that Devontae Smith would have been the better pick.
I mean, just looking at the roster, right? In terms of receivers, they have like Gesicki's still there, and then they have Devontae Parker. So I just think having somebody who can, you know, go super fast and space out, like force teams to put a safety over the top will help.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Will Fuller go to the Dolphins?
Yeah, on a 1-year
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
yeah,
so
but who,
they're gonna have like deep threats too. So I think this is a solid pick.
Mhm.
Dolphins
And they
might go-
they beefed up their line too.
Yeah,
might
and they
go
beefed up their
far,
line.
though. It all
I
depends
think
on
Dolphins
Tua.
did good.
It really depends on
Yeah.
Tua now.
Mm-hmm.
And for the 7th pick, Detroit Lions got Penei Sewell.
This is a great pick for them.
Great.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
the new coach loves like the bite the kneecap guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
He loves like the aggressiveness, and I think Sewell's really aggressive.
I
Yeah,
think
I like this a lot too.
the Lions just did a really smart thing, which is drafting BPA. The
Mhm.
Lions need a lot for that team, and taking the best player available, especially when it's a generational tackle.
Lions-
You can't complain.
Yeah,
Lions
I
had a
think
really
this is an
good
amazing
draft.
pick.
They
Yeah,
had a really
they
good draft
did.
this year.
I
Yeah,
thought this was an
really good
amazing
value
draft.
picks. Yeah.
And for the next pick, Carolina Panthers get J.C. Horn, pick number 8.
I like
Yeah, this
J.C.
is
Horn, and Carolina needs help in their secondary. So I think that this is a good fit. But when you see who's still on the board, Justin Fields. They
Yeah,
they don't have their quarterback situation figured out. I mean, they traded for Sam Darnold. They traded a second, a fourth, and a
Yeah.
sixth. They traded all that for Sam Darnold, so they clearly believe in him, and they picked up his 5th-year option. So they believe in Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold is being put in a position to succeed because they're working on the offensive line. They have solid receivers because they also drafted. Did they draft Terrence Marshall? Terrence
they got
Marshall. Jr.?
Terrence Marshall.
And so they have Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Terrence Marshall Jr., and now they're beefing up the secondary. They believe in him. I think that this was a solid pick, but I personally think that Pat Surtain was better.
I agree. I think Pat Surtain was better. I mean, you can argue both. They're really good.
Mm-hmm.
I do think since they did trade away Bridgewater, that they do have high hopes in Sam
Yeah, they're
Darnold.
all in.
I don't know if I have high hopes in Sam Darnold, but I mean, I'm not an NFL coach, so they must see something in him that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, of course, he has potential. He has that. He's athletic ability and he has an arm, but that doesn't make him any different from any other bust quarterback who has athletic ability and has an arm and can bomb downfield.
I think just
I-
looking into the pick in specific, just seeing it being J.C. Horn. I had J.C. Horn as my 3rd cornerback,
Mm-hmm.
but the difference between the three between J.C. Horn, Caleb Farley, and Patrick Surtain were like I wanted to put them as a tie almost. I don't think that they did anything wrong going J.C. Horn here. If anything, I think J.C. Horn could possibly be the best because although he had the worst stats out of the bunch, teams didn't throw to him, and he also had to play against Bama twice. He's
played against
performed
competition.
extremely well. Yeah, so
Yep.
I think I think he was the best man-to-man cornerback in my opinion. I think Patrick Surtain, he played more zone. So I think the Panthers, they play a lot of man-to-man as well. I think they like to scheme like that. So I think it was the right pick for them. I'm pretty sure. I think I don't know. I'm not
Panthers
like,
run a lot of zone, actually. I was
oh
gonna
really?
bring up that point. So
Mhm.
that's why I thought
Oh,
this
that's
pick was interesting and why Surtain would probably have been a better fit for them. But obviously, I'm not their defensive coordinator. I'm not sure what their plans are for next year. Maybe if they have an elite man-to-man cover guy like J.C. Horn, then they're gonna switch up their scheme a bit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll see. And for the next pick in the draft, I think this was even more controversial. Was Denver took Pat Surtain, a cornerback at pick number 9. And the reason why I thought this was controversial was because of Justin Fields was still on the board, and they do need a quarterback. But
because
they ended up getting Patrick Surtain, which they do have a solid cornerback room with Kyle Fuller, Bryce Callahan, and so on. But I mean, they do have 1 year deals left, but they can also still re-sign them.
Mhm.
But what are they going to do about the quarterback? A lot of people are saying, oh, it could be because they might trade for Aaron Rodgers, but who knows if that's going to actually happen.
I think this was a solid pick. Their defense or their secondary specifically is probably their biggest strength for their team. If I were to be honest, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, he's making a case for being one of the best safeties in the league. He's up and coming. Then they signed Ronald Darby, but then they have Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller is a top 10 cornerback that can teach Pat Surtain how to be one of the best. So I think that this was a solid pick, but then you look at their glaring needs of quarterback. They don't have good quarterback play. And then you look at the division. The division is arguably, I say, the best quarterback division. They have Herbert, they have Mahomes, and they have Derek Carr. All three of those guys are top 15 quarterbacks. So you have to be competitive in this division. And they don't have that. They traded a sixth for Teddy Bridgewater, but that doesn't really solve the quarterback case. And they have Drew Lock as well, who's going into his 3rd year, and they're hoping that he'll be decent. But when you have Justin Fields on the board, and you take a position of need, or you take a position that you're very abundant in, I don't like it.
I mean, this helps Vic Fangio.
That's
Vic Fangio
true.
is a solid defensive coach.
It's
But
not
like
a
I said,
horrible pick. It's not a horrible pick,
it's
and
not a horrible pick.
it's not a bad pick. But when you're looking at needs for the team, I didn't like it.
I agree. And moving on from this pick, this is a really good pick in my opinion. Philadelphia Eagles traded up to get Devontae Smith.
I did they really need to trade up?
Yes, dude. The
I
I
saw
think
Giants
so.
would take him.
I think so. Yeah.
Cowboys.
I think
Listen,
the Giants were gonna take him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If this was the reason for another pick, which I'll get into, um, but I thought this was a really good pick for them since they do need another solid receiver. They don't really have any good proven receivers. Jalen Rigor didn't really prove himself in his rookie year. So I like this pick a lot. I mean, he won the Heisman. He's extremely good. I think
Yeah.
he'll be doing extremely good in the league. I think he dropped a little bit more than he should have, but I think this is a really good pick.
This
Yeah.
pick is really good because the Eagles have like 3 first-rounders lined up for next year, and they have like a bunch of second and third rounders. So even if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out, they're like in position to get a good QB next year and build off Devonta Smith. So I think it's a really good pick for them, going best
I
player
think we
available.
just have to acknowledge the fact that finally the Eagles drafted the wide receiver they were supposed to draft.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's true.
Not drafting JJ Arcega-Whiteside or drafting Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, even if somehow Devontae Smith doesn't work out, you can't say, oh, they shouldn't have taken someone else.
Yeah,
Exactly.
true.
I genuinely think though, if Smith doesn't pan out, something's wrong with their coaching staffs or however they're developing their receivers. Because it's odd to see that many high round picks bust, even if they're not the guys that you're expecting them to draft. So I think it's interesting to see what's going on in that coaching staff if this doesn't work.
Mhm.
I agree. And for the next pick, which is honestly my favorite pick in the draft, no bias, was that the Chicago Bears
Steal of the
traded
draft.
up. The
Steal of the
Chicago
draft.
Bears took Justin Fields at 11, and this is why I like I like the Smith pick for the Eagles was because the Giants wanted to get Devontae Smith, and since the Eagles traded up to get him, the Giants were more than willing to trade back, and that's where we come in. We trade, honestly, I think was a solid trade in my opinion, and we get a proven quarterback for the Chicago Bears. So I really like this pick for the Chicago Bears. This is extremely solid. I'm very happy for Justin Fields, and I have to apologize because I did say Justin Fields would be my Josh Rosen earlier in the first podcast, but I spent an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes watching this YouTube video, which showed every single run and pass play by Justin Fields, and almost so he had a couple of mistakes, yeah, but this man is a winner. He balls out. He has the heart. He has the mentality. He has the just the physical ability just to do whatever he wants to do as a quarterback to succeed, and that's what I really like.
For
And like
me, he was my quarter. He was my quarterback too because obviously you have Trevor Lawrence, who's a generational prospect. But if this were any other draft, he'd go number one because, in my opinion, he has that talent. He's established. He in 2019, 41 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, Heisman finalist. He had first on the aptitude test out of 6,500 players that or 6,500 prospects that they assessed. He is smart. He's talented. He has the arm talent. He's a deep ball thrower. He can read a field. There are some negative attributes that they want to give to him, saying that he holds onto the ball a little bit too much. But these are all small, very small mechanics that can be worked in the league. This was a steal. He should have gone number 2. The Jets took Zach Wilson, who started for a full season for a year and had one good year, and then they took Trey Lance over him. Trey Lance is such a project. I like where Trey Lance landed. Don't like where Zach Wilson landed, but I think that Justin Fields is the quarterback that the Bears deserve. Like we need a quarterback that can actually win. We need a quarterback that has a winning mentality. You saw him get drafted, and he looked a little bit sad, but he knows that he should have gone number 2 overall. He knows that he missed out on 16 million in that from going from 2 to 11. He is he could be I'd say he's the steal in the first round, or very biased, but it's a little lesson that we had to trade up for him. But there's so many things that went into effect. I love this pick so much.
What
Yeah.
scares me as a Packers fan is that he's really fast, and we suck against fast QBs. Like, we're absolutely horrible. We cannot defend fast QBs for our lives. So I'm going to be scared. I'm going to pray that Andy Dalton plays against us and, go from there. But
Yeah,
Those are words I like to hear.
yeah.
just looking a little deeper into Justin Fields, you talked about him being a winner. There's a clip of him running with his running back all the way to the end and blocking the guy.
Yeah.
And
Apparently he
you
doesn't
don't see
love football.
quarterbacks willing to sacrifice their body, running the length of the field, trying to block for their running back to get the touchdown. There were people saying that there are some question marks about his aptitude, but I just don't see it. The kid wants to win, and he'll do whatever it takes.
I agree.
I genuinely want to know what made this guy drop on other people's draft boards. He was the number 2 prospect for so long, and the fact that he dropped, like, not just like dropped in the draft, that other quarterbacks or like Trey Lance was taken over him, that is weird to me. Because what happened? Even Zach Wilson, he just made some pro day throws, and all of a sudden he was elevated past Justin Fields. I don't get that at all.
They're a little concerned about his epilepsy, like his family outgrows it within their 20s. That's a little bit. They're also concerned about his throwing mechanics, but I don't understand it either, because this is an established quarterback. He played in the Big Ten, and then you're taking Trey Lance, who has a very high ceiling, but Trey Lance is beating up on like D3 schools, and you have Zach Wilson, who when he plays teams that have over 10 wins, teams that are very, very good, he crumbles under the pressure. I don't understand him being QB4 taken. It's disrespectful. It's a chip on his shoulder, and he's gonna head into the season with that, knowing that I have something to prove. I am the number 1 quarterback that should have been T-Law, but I am going to be the best quarterback out of this draft. Everyone's doubting me, and I'm going to break the OSU curse, I'm going to break the Chicago Bears quarterback curse, and I'm just going to go demon this year.
Just like Dwayne Haskins, bro.
No, Dwayne Haskins didn't have that word.
Stop
And
that.
I think everyone knew, since that dude barely memorized the playbook, and also was just going out clubbing every chance he got.
And then he said
So-
the league done messed up.
I mean, we could keep talking about Justin Fields, but if you guys want to hear more about it, me and Abdul have a podcast called Chai Bears Blitz. You guys can go check that out. We went in depth on Justin Fields, but we're gonna move on with the next pick in the draft, Micah Parsons to the Dallas Cowboys. I actually really like this pick.
I
He's
think
a
it's
freak player. He
I
can
think it's
go for
all
it.
right. I think they did this. They did this, or they traded back 2 spots because they really wanted Pat Surtain. Like, I like the Cowboys defense definitely needs some work. Cowboys defense was disgusting in 2020. You had them always being down. You had Dak Prescott, who had to throw for 500 yards a game just to even bring them back to close to win. They needed help on their defense, so I think this pick is pretty decent, but I would have liked if they were to move up, or Pat Surtain with this defense would have been great.
I don't know, it's confusing to me because I thought the Cowboys had good linebackers with like Leighton Vander Esch and then Jalen Smith. but I guess they just didn't perform this year as.
I think there's just a lot of
Jalen
injuries.
Jalen Smith had an
Or
off
it might
year.
have been.
Jalen Smith was not
There's
good
just
this year.
injuries too with Van Der Esch because I mean you can't just always bank on him being healthy. He's just
Mm-hmm.
always been injured too.
But Micah Parsons, he's a freak. I think I saw a quote where the Penn State special teams guy said that if he stayed another year, he would have been the special teams returner. Like he's that much of a freak athlete.
That's and we're gonna move on from Mika Parsons to this next pick. Who I'm gonna have Yusuf actually introduce.
Yep, but the 13th pick, the LA Chargers picked Rashawn Slater, which was my number one tackle for this draft. I was ecstatic seeing that pick. The second the Bears traded it up to 11, I knew that we were getting him because no other team would have to deal with drafting a tackle that were ahead of us. Honestly, I'm very surprised that the Chargers were able to get Slater at 13. Most mock drafts were projecting him to be gone by around 11 or earlier. Just going into Slater a little bit, he is slightly undersized, has a little shorter arms, but his work ethic and everything else about him makes up for it and more. The kid runs I think he runs like a 4.8, 40. He's a 30-inch vert. He's extremely strong. He did, I think on the bench he did 40. He did
Yeah,
40
something
reps.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, this was
His footwork, everything about him is great. His fundamentals. And during this off season, he said he was doing two. Or not during the off season. During the season that he opted out of, he said he was doing 2-a-day workouts and he was doing offensive lineman just training camps the entire time, and he's been working on his craft. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see him play.
I agree. I mean, this is my second favorite pick in the draft. He's extremely solid. I think easily just going to be one of the best tackles out of this class, if not the best tackle out of this class.
I mean, when best player available is your biggest position of need, or at least one of the biggest, there's a few positions of needs. It's just a great combination, and that's exactly what happened for the
Yeah.
Chargers.
Justin Herbert's gonna eat, bro. He's gonna be so happy.
Yeah, he's going to be solid.
Alright.
And we're going to move a little bit quicker on this next pick. It was just Elijah Vera Tucker, a guard that the Jets got. I thought this was a solid pick for them. They just got some protection for Zach Wilson.
Yeah, this was a great trade for Minnesota as well because they were able to trade back, and we can talk about the pick later. But I think that
It was
this
a good
ended up
trade. That
working
was a good trade
extremely
back.
well for Minnesota.
I agree. And for the 50, actually, do you want to say something, Jamil?
I just wanted to add one thing that during the draft, one of the guys says the Jets have done more for Zach Wilson than they ever did for Sam Darnold, and I think that's funny because it's very true. They
Yeah, I
drafted
agree.
him a receiver, they drafted him a line, a running back. They're giving him everything.
I agree. And for the 15th pick, I actually like this pick a lot too. Mac Jones to the Patriots, who I think is just the best destination for him.
Yep.
Dude, who
You
wouldn't wanna
look at
go
the
there?
system- Well, you look at the system that the Patriots have in place. It allowed Tom Brady to thrive as somebody who isn't known for his mobility. He's not a very mobile quarterback. And then especially ending the end of his career at the Patriots, he wasn't moving a lot. So that really plays into the strengths and weaknesses of Mac Jones. A lot of people were knocking on him because of his athleticism, but if they're playing in an offense that doesn't require him to have to run the ball, I think this is his best position to thrive from.
I think it's also gonna bring in competition for Cam Newton as well. I think it's a win-win situation, even if Mac Jones isn't that great at the start, like first year. I think it's a good pick for 15.
Solid. It's
I
like the Bama to New England pipeline. Like the coaching is pretty similar. Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, I feel like they have very same their coaching practices, their personalities are pretty similar. Bill Belichick is obviously probably, I don't even think that you could argue that he's not the best coach in the league right now. And to have the O-line built around him, the O-line is pretty solid. They drafted Christian Barmore in the second. They're building up the defense because 2020 was kind of an off year for wipe it from the memory of the Patriots because they had so many things go wrong for them. So I think that in the future, Mac Jones could be very, very good within Bill Belichick's system. We've seen when he gets a quarterback like this. I saw the pictures of Mac Jones shirtless and then compared to Tom Brady, like all the memes about that. They're pretty similar players. So I'm glad that Bill Belichick got his guy, and they might be dangerous in the future.
I agree. And for the next pick in the draft, the Arizona Cardinals got Zayvon Collins.
This is the first pick where I kind of was questioning the thought processes on it from the management. I understand he's a decent player. I just don't see the fit for their team needs, or even he wasn't the best player available on the draft. So just a lot of question marks for me. I had a few other linebackers even ranked higher than him, so
Hmm.
Yeah,
not
my
a big
J-
I agree.
pick.
I thought
Looking at
JOK
him,
was. I thought JOK was the best linebacker in this
he's
draft.
more of an
after
outside
Parsons.
linebacker, and right now they have two really good edge rushers, so I don't think they really need help with pass rushing. I think somebody who would be a better coverage linebacker would have fitted more if they wanted to draft a linebacker. So that would be like JOK. So that was very confusing for this pick.
JOK dropped so far. I was so
He really
mad.
did.
I thought the Packers should have drafted him.
This was actually my first head scratcher. Was this next pick?
Yeah.
The Raiders get Alex Leatherwood, who I think is a solid tackle, but I just think there are better tackles that could have went
Dude,
ahead.
Darisaw was still on the board.
The
There, so
Raiders
Yes.
historically have always reached, dude. Like, I think they drafted a linebacker in the last year's draft. That was early. They drafted, I think, Arnett the year before, a
Yeah, they're
cornerback.
wasting
from
Bears
Ohio
Even-
first round picks.
They keep doing that. They keep
really are.
going, like they keep reaching basically in the first round, especially later
Yeah,
rounds.
yeah,
they
well,
go-
Clellan Farrell at like 4.
yeah.
They
I think
reached
that
so
was the draft.
hard. They reached
That
so
was the
hard
draft
with
they
their
always.
picks.
Yeah.
I don't.
Even
Leatherwood.
Ruggs was a reach. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. Yeah, Ruggs was definitely a reach with like CeeDee Lamb. Everyone's like, as soon as they picked Ruggs, everyone's just like, oh, CeeDee Lamb is still on the board. Like,
And Jerry Judy was a better prospect
Mhm.
for almost everyone, I think. So interesting pick by the Raiders as usual.
Mhm.
Yep.
I thought that
Alright.
he was gonna go in bottom of the second, or not bottom of the second, middle of the second, around
I,
that
I,
range.
I had him going mid bottom
Yeah,
of the second too.
because when you see Tevin Jenkins a better prospect, Christian Darisaw a better prospect, arguably Liam Eichenberg better.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that he
Yeah,
should have
Liam
gone this
Eichenberg
early.
is-
Not even close.
It is
I-
funny though, because in the second round they got one of the best values in Trayvon Morig, so
Mhm.
they kind of made
Yeah,
up
they
for it
did.
right there.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And for the next pick in the draft, the Dolphins get Jalen Phillips.
This is
Man,
really
he's a
good
beast.
because their defense was extremely underrated last year, and I think adding an edge rusher is probably. I think an edge rusher is probably like the second most important position on defense, besides like a cornerback. And I think just helping out your defense. And this dude's a freak. He's a freak athlete. So
I
I
like
agree.
it too. I really
it's a good
like it.
pick.
And for the 19th pick, Washington Redskins get Jamin Davis.
That's solid. They need linebacker help. I mean, the only linebackers they have are John Bostic trying to kill Andy Dalton. So like I mean,
Some-
they got some
Very
help
true.
in that division. Their D line is one of the best in the league, top 3
Mhm.
definitely. They have a really good defense. So just adding to that is a solid pick. I like Jamin Davis.
I don't know.
Just overall.
Wasn't he projected to go in the second round? I think his stock like skyrocketed because
His
of his
pro
athleticism.
day
Yeah.
made him elevate like crazy, and then they became like a Jamin Davis hype train out of nowhere, and I
Mhm.
kind of jumped on it too. I really like the guy, raw prospect, freak athlete, and those linebackers always seem to turn out well.
Yeah. I mean, Ron Rivera is a good coach too, so he'll treat him well. And for the next pick, I actually like this a lot because I'm a Kadarius Toney fan. The Giants get Kadarius Toney at pick 20.
I didn't like this because I'm a Rashad Bateman stan. I really like Rashad Bateman. I mean, Kadarius Toney can add a lot of things to the offense, but I think that I don't know what the Giants are doing. Their wide receiver core is pretty decent. I mean, you signed Kenny Golladay to a 4-year, $72 million deal. You have Sterling Shepard, who's decent. You have Darius Slayton, who's decent. Obviously, Kadarius Toney adds more to that offense, and then you have Saquon Barkley, obviously. But I think that they reached a little bit once they had Devontae Smith taken from them at 10. I think that they reached a little bit. Kadarius Toney. There are a couple of prospects that I like a little bit more than him, but Rashad Bateman was one of them that I really, really liked above
So
him.
I'm gonna
So-
disagree with you on the
Yeah, me
reach.
too.
Urban
Mhm.
Meyer actually said that he was extremely disappointed that Kadarius Toney wasn't there at 25.
hmm
So
my
I
opinion-
don't think it was a reach. I think they got the guy where they wanted it. And if some people would probably say it was maybe 10 picks too early, but I think they got their guy.
I liked it a lot.
I think that Kadarius Toney was actually the right pick over Bateman because Kadarius Toney, he's a gadget player, so he can do a lot of things around the field, and I think the Giants needed that gadget player. Like I think he can play in the slot, he can play outside, he plays as a running back. That's why I really wanted the Packers to get him. Um, but yeah, I think it was a good pick. I think this is the right pick there.
And for the next pick in the draft, the Colts get Kwity Paye.
He's a solid edge rusher. The Colts will make him into a very good edge rusher.
Yeah,
That's what the Colts do.
yeah. I thought this was a solid pick for them because I mean he is an athletic freak. So if anyone were to just capitalize on that, it would be Kwity Paye with the Colts.
Facts.
I think it's interesting that the Colts went double edge rusher in the first 2 rounds, and they already had a good D line. Obviously, you can never have too many good edge rushers. I just think it's interesting. Both the prospects they got, I like. I just don't see the team needs for 2 in a draft, to be honest.
And for pick 22, the Tennessee Titans get Caleb Farley.
That's what's solid. They definitely need cornerback help. They don't have what is his name? Blank on his name. That's now with the
Malcolm
Giants.
Butler? Malcolm Butler? Right?
No, not Malcolm Butler.
Dory Jack.
Dory Jackson. They don't have him anymore, and their defense isn't anything. So they were a bottom 5 defense last year. So adding more help, definitely a solid pick.
Yeah, I agree with Zesef when he said Caleb Farley, Patrick Surtain, and J.C. Horn are kind of just similar talents. So I think this was a solid pick for them. And for pick 23, Christian Darrisaw went to the Minnesota Vikings.
Kind of a
I
steal.
think,
Big tackle.
yeah, I think this is one of the best picks in the draft, just because he was projected to go to them in like almost every mock draft at 14, or even the Chargers at 13. So just the fact that they got him at 24, traded down, added a pick, amazing pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. And for pick 24, I thought this was a really good pick. The Pittsburgh Steelers get Najee Harris.
I didn't really like it because Najee Harris is a dynamic player, but who's he gonna run behind? Like their line, they lost Alejandro Villanueva. Pouncey retired. Their line is not what it was last year, and then they also have an aging quarterback. They have Big Ben, who's 39 years old. I didn't like the pick too much. Obviously, he's a very dynamic player. He's gonna add something to that offense, but I think, and I'm just not a fan overall of drafting running backs in the first round.
Yeah, but they did address their line. They drafted a center in the 3rd round from U of I, and then I think they addressed line later as well, in the later rounds.
I'm in agreement with Abdul. More help on the O line would have been nicer, because when that's your biggest need and you only get one in the 3rd round, it's not the best.
And for the next pick, I thought this was pretty bad. Is that the Jacksonville Jaguars get Travis Etienne?
This was the
This
worst
was
one.
the biggest head
I don't want to do
scratcher
that.
for me in terms of the first round draft picks.
Only thing I can-
Jacksonville has a lot of glaring needs. Running back wasn't one of them last year because James Robinson looked like he could be a bell cow.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I just thought it was a horrible pick.
I think he was
And-
a good wide receiver. Or sorry, good.
Receiving
pass
back.
rusher. That's why.
For sure.
And for pick 26, the Cleveland Browns get Greg Newsome.
I like this. He has that swag. Yeah.
He does have that swag.
I want the Packers should have traded up. Pretty mad.
Yeah,
That was a good
so
trade.
Good
so wanted to.
value.
Yeah.
And for pick 27, Abdul's favorite receiver, Rashad Bateman, went to the Baltimore Ravens.
I think this is great. Lamar needs weapons. Who was he working with last year? Hollywood Brown and Willie Snead. He also had
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews was Butterfingers for like a couple of weeks. They didn't have good receivers. They're surrounding him with talent now, and I'm excited to see Rashad Bateman in 2021.
I agree.
Mhm.
And for pick 28, this is one I thought was the worst one of the first round draft, was Peyton Turner
Yeah,
for the Saints.
such a reach. What was he
I
on? He
don't
was on
know.
like
Yeah.
he was in the 170s on big boards.
Yeah, he
When-
was a
when-
reach, and they're just not a need.
When Peyton Turner got called, I was very concerned because I
Yeah.
want who?
Exactly.
The only reason why I say that this isn't the worst pick is just because Jacksonville is a rebuilding team and they should be drafting BPA no matter what.
That's true. And for pick 29, I'm gonna have Sully introduce this one.
Yeah, we picked Eric Stokes. He's a speed demon. I think here in a 4.25. He has really good. I think he has a really good frame and he's really fast. But his footwork is just bad. It's pretty bad. And I think that in order for him to be a really good corner in this league, he needs to improve his footwork. He's had good history with Alabama. I think he plays a lot against Alabama wide receivers. He's held his own against them. I think I've seen some tape where He's blown some zone coverages. He doesn't have the best IQ, but I think that it's a really like project pick, and hopefully we can develop him. We haven't had a great history in developing cornerbacks, but you know,
I actually
I'm hoping.
that was actually a perfect description of what I think as well. He's very raw. He's very quick. If he just works under Jair Alexander, he has the potential just to be a good cornerback.
Mhm.
And for pick 30, the Buffalo Bills get Greg Rousseau.
I like Rousseau. I like this pick. I mean, Buffalo, their defense wasn't spectacular by any means. I think one of their glaring weaknesses was their D line altogether. So if they're adding Greg Rousseau, who can fill out his frame, I mean, people have concerns about his smaller frame as an edge rusher. If he can fill it out, he can work in Buffalo, get to the quarterback, which is what they really need because the defense wasn't doing any of that in 2020. I think this is a solid pick.
I agree. And for pick 31, the Baltimore Ravens get Odafe Jason Owe.
This is a good pick. He is a project player and he needs to be developed because he only started playing football when he entered college. He's a freak athlete, which is why he was drafted so high. And the Ravens are a good team that could help him develop into the player that he could become.
I agree. And for pick 32, final pick in the first round draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get Joe Tryon.
Bucks had no weaknesses, and I
Yeah.
think this pick exactly shows it. That they're just when I see this and what they did in other rounds, they're just drafting replacement players for their future. Like I see this as Jason Pierre-Paul's replacement once they can't re-sign him in a year or two.
I agree.
Agreed.
And that concludes what happened in the NFL first round draft. I think the whole draft just went pretty well, and so we're just gonna end it off with there, and then we'll have a great podcast for you guys next week, and Abdul will explain to you guys what we're gonna do then.
So next week we're gonna be talking about our favorite picks in the second and third round. We're gonna be talking about picks that we didn't like that much. We're gonna be talking about way too early boom versus bust, and we're also gonna be talking about Aaron Rodgers wanting out of Green Bay.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching.
All right, thanks. Take care.